Lee Summit is your destination for big city vibes and small town charm.
Head to the downtown Lee Summit Farmers Market, where local meets fresh. Then grab a cup of coffee and discover a variety of shops and boutiques just around the corner. Continue the fun in downtown Lee Summit at a retro arcade bar. Discover your new beer at one of our 6 locally owned breweries. Cool off with some handcrafted cocktails at happy hour. End the night with live music and good company. Lee Summit, Missouri.
Hello, Lee Summit. I'm Laura, and this is your flash briefing for the week of November 4th. The City and the Lee Summit Fire and Police Departments invite you to join us as we break ground on the Joint Operations Facility on November 8th at 10:30 a.m. at 2 Northeast Tudor Road, directly behind the current police station. This is made possible through the 2023 No Tax Increase Bond in partnership with the state of Missouri. This facility will be the future home of fire administration and training and the city's emergency operations and communications centers. We hope to see you there. Heads up drivers, Southeast 3rd Street between Southeast Douglas Street and Southeast Grand Avenue will close to through traffic today, November 4th, for work associated with the Green Street project. For a map and additional details, visit cityofls.net/closures. The Citizens Leadership Academy is now accepting applications for the 2025 program. This interactive program is designed to give attendees a behind-the-scenes look at the inner workings of the city government. Applications are accepted through December 22nd. Space is limited. Sign up today at cityofls.net. The Lee Summit Recovery Park at 211 Southeast Hamblin Road is hosting Pumpkin Take Back all this week. Help keep pumpkins out of the landfill by dropping them off to be composited. This is a free event. And city facilities will be closed Monday, November 11th for Veterans Day. Thanks for listening and have a great week.
I'm Assistant Chief Jim Eden.
And I'm Battalion Chief Ben Hicks.
And today we're at Lee Summit Fire Station 3. Fire Station 3 was part of the 2016 No Tax Increase General Obligation Bond for Public Safety Initiatives. The station was built and occupied in August of 2020. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, we've not been able to give tours or have an actual ribbon cutting. So we want to invite you in today to give you the opportunity to see what goes on within the Lee Summit Fire Department station.
Let's go take a tour. This is our admin side of the facility. We use this side mainly for offices. We have a lot of work during the day, whether it's training or doing reports or just generally taking care of the shift that we need to do. At this particular station, Station 3, we do have an assistant chief that works out of here. That person has their own office where they need to manage what's going on throughout the day with the shift and staffing, and as well as running calls out of here. The captain has their own office as well. What the captain does is at this specific station is in charge of both the fire truck that's here as well as the ambulance. And so with all those personnel responsibilities as well as running calls and reports, that's where they work out of. And generally for the rest of the crew, which is somewhere around 5 to 6 individuals, we have rooms to write reports, and we have additional training rooms and other rooms where people can work. Walking into our living area, I think it's important to recognize that we work 48-hour shifts. So in the evenings, after 5 o'clock, after work is done, we may have the opportunity to catch a game or something else as long as we're not running calls. And this gives us the opportunity to do that. When we go into our kitchen, I think this gives you a great reason to know why we go to the grocery store. When you see fire trucks at the grocery store, what we're doing. Well, so for 2 days working for 48 hours, we buy all our meals at the grocery store, and then we come in here and cook. Just like you guys do at home. So everybody has their own fridge on each shift as well as their own pantry, and then we cook those meals here. Going into the sleeping side of things, we've got a couple different things that are significant. We have our own laundry room, which again is important when we're here for 48 hours. The opportunity to wash and clean our clothes and bedding is very important for hygiene. And walking into where our beds are, we keep the kind of sleeping quarters over on one side of the building. It gives us both easy access out to where our fire apparatus are, as well as kind of keeping it a little bit quieter for those people that have been up all night running calls. We have 11 bedrooms here at this station, and the reason we built it with so many bedrooms is we want to give ourselves as a city the opportunity to expand. So if we need to put another apparatus here or numerous other people working at this station, that's already in place as far as infrastructure goes, and we don't need to go back and try to make it bigger or better, and that's really important for us, especially because the old station was so small. Back out on the apparatus floor, we had doors facilitated as many places as possible, so that way when we're sleeping at night and a call comes out, we can make our way out fairly quickly to get out onto the truck if we need to and run a call. On the other side of the station, we kind of have other stuff that we may want to keep separated if we want to. Physical fitness is very important to us as firefighters. So in order to better ourselves and make sure we're as healthy as we can to do this job, we have our own gym facility here that we kind of go throughout the day when we can and get an opportunity to come in and work out. Our goal when we run calls, when we get back to the station after calls, our goal is to get ready to go back as soon as we can to run another call. So we have the opportunity or capability here to fill up our air tanks. You can see firefighters wear the big air tanks on their backs, and they use those in a fire. We can come back and fill those up and make sure that we're ready to go again when we're wanting to go run another call. We have our own workshop here. We work on a lot of our tools and making sure that everything's clean and operational, and this gives us the capability to do that, again, to make sure that we have everything we need and we're as capable as we can be running calls throughout the city. Cancer prevention is very important in the fire service right now. Because of that, we have an extractor machine, and what this does is gives us the capability when we come back from a fire, we can put our bunker gear into this machine and get all that really nasty crud off of our gear. Again, kind of getting back to that cancer prevention mode, allowing us to be as clean as we possibly can for the next call. And finally is our bunker gear room. We each have our own individual locker. This gives us the opportunity to store our gear when we're not here working in between shifts, as well as keep a clean extra set on here in case we do run a fire and we need to clean our current gear. Typically, this is where your day starts off at the fire station. You come in and get your gear and put it on wherever you're working that day, and then you end the same way, bring your stuff back to your locker to go home after working. This is Med 3. This ambulance just currently moved into the station from Station 7. Station 3, since we've had it built, has turned into one of our busiest stations in the city. Therefore, we wanted to provide the best care and the closest unit as we could. So we moved one of our ambulances up, and this became Med 3 for this particular instance. Out of this station, we also have Pumper 3. And that's a fire apparatus that they utilize to run the calls on this west end of the city. The last vehicle that you see is the chief's vehicle. We have 2 shift chiefs on shift every day, and they split the city. And this chief running out of this station typically covers the west and south area of the city, while our chief of Station 2 covers kind of that northeast section of our city, and they divide it up evenly.
Thank you for going on a tour with us today. If you have any other questions about the Lee Summit Fire Department, please go to our webpage at lsfire.net or follow us on Facebook at Lee Summit Fire Department.
Thanks for joining us on the tour.
Councilmember Hodges.
Thank you. I love where you guys are coming from. You're local and you're all kind of coming together. But where I'm struggling with from the last time that we talked about this, I think it was maybe October.
I actually grew up in my district. We moved here my sophomore year in high school. My parents still live in the same house, and I just went through high school here and then have stayed in Lee Summit ever since. The neighborhood that my parents live in is Canterbury. My favorite thing, and I still do to this day, is I love to go running. They have the best sidewalks. I feel like you can go for days. So now I still get to do that since I live not too far from them. I get to use those same routes that I took during high school, and it's just fun. All right, let's see it, Jess. Come on. We're a big soccer family. I love sports, I love to watch sports, and it's even more fun to watch sports when my kids are in it. I coach my middle daughter Josie's team, and I have since kindergarten. We do the basketball, we do softball, we're gonna do volleyball, and it's just so much fun. Something that I would like to accomplish while on city council is to get more family activities here. You know, I don't want to have to be driving my family to, say, the Kansas side or any other city but my own. And I want to be able to invest in our city and make family memories in our city.
Open the public hearing in the matter of K1 Speed, Diventures,
Crack Shack, Blue Jeans Golf.
Councilmember Hodges.
I just want to say thank you for bringing this to Lee Summit. I grew up at this. My grandpa took us there, so I'm excited that now I have to take my kids there.
Bill number 23-0, pre-construction services for the downtown Market Plaza project.
I'm just as excited as everybody else about the downtown marketplace. I'm extremely excited about the community that it's going to bringing more family things to do to the city and right in the heart of it.
When you presented the numbers, the first time you came to us, it was 25.5%.
Calling to order this meeting of the Finance and Budget Committee for Monday, November 4th. Can we go ahead and get a roll call, please?
Thank you, Chair. Councilmember Carlisle.
Present.
Councilmember DeMauro.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Lopez.
Here.
Chair Shields.
Here. All right, next item is approval of the agenda. Unless we have any discussion, I would look for motion.
Chair, I moved for the approval of the agenda. Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion by Councilmember DeMoro, and we'll take the second from Councilmember Carlisle today. Can we get a vote, please?
Thank you, Chair. Councilmember DeMoro.
Aye.
Councilmember Carlisle.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Lopez.
Aye.
Chair Shields.
Aye. All right, next item is public comments. Do we have any comments submitted or anyone wanting to make comment today?
Sure, we did not have any comments submitted before tonight's meeting.
As always, I'm sure they're all watching online. So, all right, next item, 5A, 2024-6569, approval of the October 7th, 2024 Finance and Budget Committee action letter. Do we have any discussion? If not, I would look for a motion.
Chair, I'd move to approve the October 7th Finance and Budget Committee action letter.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Councilmember Carlisle, second by Mayor Pro Tem Lopez to approve the action letter. Can we get a vote, please?
Thank you, Chair. Councilmember DeMoro.
Aye.
Councilmember Carlisle.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Lopez.
Aye.
Chair Shields.
Aye. All right, next item is TMP-3183 An Ordinance approving a public service agreement between the City of Lee Summit, Missouri and the Lee Summit Economic Development Council for services to be provided to the city and authorizing the city manager to execute the same by and on behalf of the city. I believe we'll have some folks from the EDC here to talk this through. I did ask staff to go ahead and put this on in the form of a motion so that if we feel comfortable, or in the form of an ordinance, so that if we feel comfortable, we can go ahead and recommend that to council for approval. But if we do feel that this needs additional discussion, we can do that. Or if we feel it needs to be recommended for discussion, we can do that. But it is queued up so that if we feel comfortable, we can move it forward. So. Mr. Dunning?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Shields. Mark Dunning, City Manager. I thought before we kick this over to Mr. Van Buskirk in the EDC to present the proposed PSA, I thought it'd be helpful to pull up our Business and Industry Fund just to review this to understand where we're at with funding out of the B&I Fund, as we call it. And that won't get out of my way. Let me try this. Oh, there it goes. Okay. So what this is an ongoing, we capture what we budget and eventually what turns into actual revenues through the B&I. And so wanted to present this from fiscal year 2020 looking forward. What you will see here is traditionally, from a revenue perspective, of course, this was kind of during the COVID period, and then coming out of COVID was more around the 615,000 actual, and then you can see FY23 actuals. So that's more customary to see these numbers rather than the 400. So I wanted to point that out. But as you can see down here, we started scaling back due to COVID what our PSA amounts were. But this one here in fiscal year 2020 is what the path that we were on before COVID. Does that make sense? So 275 for EDC. At that time, we were funding the Chamber of Commerce to do some tourism activities for us. And then back then we had the marketing PSA in place as well. So that's what you see there. Back then, Velocity was in play as well. But what I wanted to represent here is look at the fund balance down here was around 200,000, a little over 200,000. We were dipping into that to get through COVID. But then, as you may recall, we defunded, I guess, the EDC, which and then the chamber no longer has a PSA with the city. So there's some changes that occurred over time, and our fund balance then began to grow to the extent that we've got a healthy fund balance in the Business and Industry Fund. And this is a separate fund from the general fund. Do want to make that very clear, so we track this independently. As you may recall, downtown Main Street and the Visitors Bureau, both in September came through with their PSA request. And so that's what you see represented here in the fiscal year 25 budget. Downtown Main Street, 120,000 in 2026, then go to 140, and then 180 in 27. For the DMO, the Visitors Bureau, it was 395 to start up, jumps to 450 and to 475. So those are already in place. Those two went through in September and were approved. And then what we've done is we've put into this spreadsheet the request that you will hear from the EDC at 200,000, 250, and 300. And you can see down here what it does to the fund balance. So I wanted to represent this just so you had that awareness before we went into the PSA discussion. And I can share with you what I recall is, yes, this is, I wouldn't say deficit spending because we are relying upon that fund balance. But as we get the DMO up and running, and we know that 2 hotels are coming, the hope is that through all these collective efforts, that the business and industry fund grows to where we're not relying upon the fund balance to fund these going forward. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions about what this looks like from a B&I funding request as far as actuals and where things sit with the B&I fund.
So to kind of hit on a couple of key numbers here, the fund balance at the end of 2024, since we finished out that budget year, was about 1.5 million. Correct. And we're projecting that if we were to approve funding for the EDC at the level that they're requesting, and if our fund balance, if the receipts come in as we expect them to, and those are pretty conservative estimates as we've discussed in previous meeting, we would still anticipate having approximately $1 million fund balance at the end of the 2027 budget year.
That's correct, and I would agree. These are pretty conservative.
Okay, and so if those revenues grow, if we see more revenue from new hotels coming online from World Cup, then we may exceed that $1 million level, but we think that's a place where we'd be pretty comfortable. Sort of the discussion that we've had before is reevaluating in a few years and seeing where we're at, but we should still have plenty of room to make adjustments at that point and not be running out of money in that fund.
That's correct, and I guess on those comments, I would say that I want to make clear that so the downtown Main Street and the DMO Visitors Bureau were three-year agreements at those funding levels, and I believe the same sentiment would hold true with the request from the EDC.
All right. Do we have any questions before we proceed to the EDC's presentation?
Okay, thank you. With that, I'll introduce Mr. Michael Van Buskirk, who is the current chair of the EDC. Do you want the talking points? Yeah. Okay.
Hello, Mike Van Buskirk. Very happy to be back in front of you all. I was just here for the full council 2 or 3 weeks ago, so I won't repeat many things I said here, but this is a pretty exciting to be back in front of you with the request for the PSA. It took a long time for us to be here and to be at this position. Before I get started, in the audience, I have Teresa Evans, our interim executive director, Bill Brown, one of our board members, Jackie McCormick, who is current treasurer, and John Ellis as well, who is secretary of the organization with me this evening, and they're all available to answer any questions as well. A couple things since I made my full presentation. We did have our quarterly investor meeting last week, which was great. We had over 90 attended. Our presentation was from the Kansas City Area Development Council. I think it was very well received. Some good questions came out of it, and some good follow-up interaction has already taken place. In the packet, and what's pulled up on the screen, is really a summary of the key terms of the PSA as we have brought them forward to you. The first thing you'll see on here is completion of the Phase 2 elements. What that's referring to, as you may recall from our letter agreement, there were some Phase 2 items that was part of my request for the additional 60-day extension to complete that. I will say that is on track to be done by the end of the year. I don't anticipate any issues with that. But that's pretty important too, by the way, because we're talking about the vision, the mission statement, the vision, the statement of core values. So it's something we don't want to rush through, but I still feel like we're on track to have that accomplished by that date. Then we got into our operational task, and one of the most important things is continuity plan. One thing I will mention to you all, our current, Teresa, our interim executive director, her agreement goes through the end of the year, but there is the ability for that to go month to month, a mutual month to month after that. Teresa and I have discussed that with some staffing that we hope to help bring on, some part-time staffing to help relieve some of the things she's doing as we're collecting and sending invoices and try to get that onto someone else's plate. That gives her more time to do what she likes to do, which is economic development. So we are still moving forward to find a permanent president for this organization, which I'll touch on in an amendment, but from a staffing, we're not under the gun, so to speak, that we've got to have a plan figured out by the end of the year. With that said, we are looking at additional staff that can help, or there's other outside consultants who are available if we need to, if that situation does come up. LSCDC president, board member conflict of interest policy and code of ethics. The conflict of interest policy, there was one previously for the organization. We totally rewrote that, and that was approved by our board at the last meeting. We are working on a code of ethics to bring forward for the board for the consideration. We modeled that off some other peer organizations that we've reviewed, as well as the city's code of ethics as well, which is combined with the conflict of interest. So we are on track for that to be completed by the end of the year. And then our next meeting this month, we'll be reviewing a job description for the new EDC president. We started down the path to review the job description. That job description had not been revised since 2013. Councilmember Shields, thank you for saying, well, maybe we ought to start over from scratch. So that was a great idea, and that is the direction we're heading down. So I'll be distributing to the full board tomorrow a draft of that agreement for to give us some time to really review it before our next board meeting coming up. So hopefully we'll have that in place. And then our goal is to fill that position as soon as possible, and this agreement is a very important part of that, to know that we have an agreement like this in place. The next big thing will be the strategic plan. That is something that, once again, in a perfect world, we'd like to have that president in place to help with that strategic plan. If not, we as the board are ready to move forward with input from the community stakeholders and you all as well. But it'd be great to have that position filled and help us do that and bring their expertise to the table. Beyond that, the accounting financial obligations, we modeled this off the PSAs of the other organizations, and so I don't think there's anything I would really call out specifically on that, and really into the financial terms of the agreement. It's summarized in 2B, 3 payments, as Mr. Dunning laid out there, that would be done over 3 years. But this is an agreement that really provides stability for the organization going forward. So with that, I think I'll stop and be able to answer any questions you all have.
Thank you.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, can you scroll down a little bit?
No, you can only see the first part of it.
And it is attached to the packet, but yeah, that is definitely helpful. Mm-hmm. So a couple of items that I would point out. In the actual agreement, there is a provision that the agreement will be subject to review and revision upon hiring and onboarding of a president of the LSCDC. So the idea being most of the deliverables under this agreement are things like establishing a short-term continuity of operations plan, establish the conflict of interest policy, hire the president. So this is currently drafted as how the organization is going to run, what its responsibilities are until they get that president in place. The idea being that after that there would be a discussion with the city about updating the PSA. Not that the agreement terminates at that point, just that this is designed to be revisited after that person is hired and after they've done that strategic planning and can kind of figure out what the new deliverables, what the new objectives are once they're into that kind of next phase. So the idea of putting it together this way was to kind of not put the cart before the horse, not try to figure out exactly what all that looks like until they have that person in place. We also had some discussions about changing the financial reporting requirements, that there's still a requirement to provide the budget and provide, additional detail on that, but not necessarily to try to segregate the city's funding and say exactly what the city funds as opposed to any other funds are spent on. I think that had been something that had caused some difficulties in the past, and it doesn't really make sense with how the organization operates. So we still want to see what they're spending their money on and making sure that it's a good investment for the city, but not necessarily trying to say that city funds can only be spent on this type of activity and not on that type of activity. That's, of course, open to discussion, but I just kind of wanted to point that out as sort of a thought that went into how the agreement may differ a little bit from the previous one. There will be in-person presentations to council at least once a year, similar to what the other PSAs are responsible to do. Those are kind of the high points in my view, but I would like to open it up for discussion, see if you guys have specific questions or thoughts. Councilmember DeMora?
Thank you, Chair. Mike, I have a couple questions, and that is your continuity past December 31st. Just a clarification, are you going to just, I mean, you said you're going to hire some part-time staff to take care of the day-to-day tasks. Are you going to look at an interim, or is an interim from whenever to June, you know, to hire a new president? Is an interim out of the scope of consideration?
I wouldn't say it's out of the scope of consideration. I would say that where Teresa is today, that she has given us more flexibility, that December 31st isn't a hard date, that we've got to find somebody to be in that position. So that takes a little bit of the pressure off. But as I said earlier, she needs some help. A lot of us are helping her, and our staff are helping her, but we need to bring on some part-time help. And we actually have, we've talked to the chamber about some ways that we can work with them. So we've got some things that already works on in that regard. But a lot of that's accounting type things and helping with the invoice into the private investors and depositing checks and also marketing as well.
And then on the reporting, did we nail down when that report? I know you send one to the manager, and I thought I saw something about that, but the report in front of the council, did we nail down when?
February. Yeah, it's currently lined up in February at the same time, I think, as the other PSAs.
Oh, I missed it completely.
Yeah, it kind of.
Okay, it's in there. Thank you, Mike.
Do you have any other questions, Councilmember DeMora?
No.
I don't think, well, I guess I do have questions about the staffing. So we had talked before more about trying to find an interim, so it sounds like now the idea is maybe to find some more administrative type help that can take some of that type of work over, and would that be someone who would hopefully stay on with the new permanent director? Because I know that the EDC used to have a staff of more than one.
Yeah, right now, my thought process, and this is obviously subject for discussion with the board next week, but is we just get some part-time help. Ideally, the permanent president would be hiring their own staff. I think that's pretty important for that role. So I don't want to commit to something like that until we have that person in place. And I'm also not saying that our intern is saying that she wants to stay on for 6 months to a year, by the way. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying it's not December 31st of this year. So that still means, that still puts pressure that, if we don't have a permanent person selected, that we have buy-in from everyone, that they're the appropriate person to lead this organization. I think I said earlier at the full council, we shouldn't rush into this. We need to have the right person. It's a very, very important hire.
So it'd be some kind of part-time, more administrative type help to get through the next few months, and then trying to get that search process for permanent director or permanent president as quickly as possible, and then possibly an interim if that process isn't moving particularly quickly.
Yeah.
Is that...
And I will say there are folks who have inquired about this position who would love to see the job description once it's approved by our board.
And I understand having some flexibility, that not knowing exactly what this is going to look like, how quickly you can get someone hired, but just good to know what those discussions are looking like. So it's kind of the big outstanding question right now is what is the staffing and leadership going to look like over the next year?
I
as we
agree
implement
completely.
This, so, I appreciate the additional information there. Do we have any other questions at this time? Okay. I would open it up for comments, discussion. Carla?
So I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you to Teresa for working with us and not just saying, I'm out. You know, so we really appreciate that, probably more than you know. So thank you so much for that. And then to the board and Michael and everybody that's helping on the day-to-day stuff, thank you for that too. But this summary is nice to have, as we all know how long the actual document is. So this is a lot easier to go through in the public setting for anybody who might be watching. So I appreciate that and all the hard work you guys did putting this together. I really didn't find anything in the actual draft that I had any issue with. I had a couple questions, but I think I found the answers to those already. So I'm good with this. I understand that you'll have to get your board in your next meeting to approve the job search and the description and all of that. But after that's done, hopefully we can get that rolling and hopefully get somebody in here within the next 6 months. I mean, I know that it's probably going to be a job that a lot of people put in for, so just hopefully we can find the right person and get them on board with us would be great. So thanks for all your hard work, guys, and we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Sure.
Mayor Protem?
Somewhat along the same lines as Councilmember Carlisle. I appreciate Mr. Dunning's context of just updating us on the B&I tax, where we're at with the balances. So that gives good context. And Mike, thank you for just providing the update. And the summary, I agree. The summary is very helpful because it could be pretty complex. And there's a lot of detail behind the scenes. I know there is. So I think the transparency is very helpful. So I appreciate it. I'm sure most of us do up here as well. And like I said, I just think that it looks like you all, the board, has been very inclusive. I think the idea of what we wanted to do as far as structure of the board with having council people have input, I think that's showing. And I think everybody seems very engaged, and it's obvious with the documents you're presenting before us. But I really do appreciate, like the phased-in approach of the payments that the city's making to, to fund the EDC in general. I think that's, you all have listened, and I commend you for that. So that's being good partners. Yeah, just, you can tell there's been a lot of time and effort put into this, and that's very, very noticeable. So thank you guys for that. Yeah, and I know you don't need us to act on the ordinance at this point specifically, but I'd be comfortable in moving this forward to the full council. So thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Demoro?
Thanks, Chair. Mike, I do appreciate the presentation, and to the board members that are here and the treasurer, of course. Thank you for your patience with us and coming forward with this document. This is a good document. I do appreciate the target dates. I mean, you've got, you've sort of set your goals up, and I know that was a big part of the agreement or the discussions prior to the agreement. So I do appreciate all that, and I appreciate all your hard work, and looking forward to getting everything done and well on our way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Councilman.
So I want to echo what my colleagues have said. Thank you to everybody for your hard work, especially Jackie. She has been working tirelessly behind the scenes, providing a lot of free legal services, drafting these different documents. But the entire board, the entire executive committee, it's been, you can tell, a real team effort, so that's appreciated.
Thank you.
I will say what I've said in the board meetings and at council, that the 3-year funding, just to keep in mind that if everybody does their jobs and tax revenue increases, then those funding levels can continue. But be aware that currently we are eating into that fund balance, and if those revenues don't increase, then the funding levels might have to be revisited. And I just want to make sure every PSA understands that fully. And I guess the last thing I'd say is that I'm also comfortable moving this forward to council. I know when it comes to hiring that director, this is kind of the last piece that you really need to have in place, that showing this relationship with the city and showing this funding stream will allow you to recruit the right person. So I think you guys have been living up to your side of the agreement that, we made so many months ago, and I think we will as well. I think the council really appreciates the efforts, and we're ready to move forward, it seems like. So
Thank you, Chair.
thank you, guys. So if everybody agrees, I would look for a motion to recommend this for approval to council.
Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to make the motion to recommend for approval TMP-3183, an ordinance approving a public service agreement between the City of Lee Summit, Missouri and the Lee Summit Economic Development Council for services to be provided to the city and authorizing the city manager to execute the same by and on behalf of the city.
Thank you. We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Lopez and a second by Councilmember Carlisle to move TMP-3183 to City Council for approval. Can we get a vote, please?
Thank you, Chair. Mayor Pro Tem Lopez.
Aye.
Councilmember DeMauro.
Aye.
Councilmember Carlisle.
Aye.
Chair Shields.
Aye. Congratulations.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
All right, next item on our agenda is TMP-3119, an ordinance approving the use of a cooperative contract between the City of Independence, Missouri and Baysinger's Uniforms and Equipment to purchase ballistic vests and the associated accessories for the Lee Summit Police Department's Emergency Services Squad in the amount of $107,936.14 and authorizing the city manager to execute all necessary documents on behalf of the city.
Good evening, John Bunker, Deputy Chief with the Police Department. This is a purchase request. They're not your general vests that you see the officers wear on the road. This is the tactical vest for our emergency service squad. That also includes vests within this order for our tactical medics. There's 8 of them that are selected from the fire department. They train with our emergency service squad on primarily it's high-risk warrants, service, active shooter scenarios, barricaded subjects, mass demonstrations, vehicle takedowns. I'm probably missing some others, but just to give you an idea of that level of work and the type of vest and why that's needed for that type of work. This is a planned purchase, however, I didn't put it in my FY25 budget, so you'll see a budget amendment coming forward from either Rick or Eric if this is passed through council for the purchase. So just want to mention that as well. We do have the funds in the PSERP account, and so that's why that budget amendment will be coming through. With that, I'll just leave it and answer any questions that you all may have.
Do we have any questions from council and the committee? Pretty straightforward, thank you. I would look for a motion.
Sure.
Yes.
I move to send to the full council with a recommendation of approval TMP-3119.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Councilmember DeMora and second by Councilmember Carlisle to recommend TMP-3119 to City Council for approval. Do we have any discussion? If not, can we get a vote, please?
Thank you, Chair. Councilmember DeMauro.
Aye.
Councilmember Carlisle.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Lopez.
Aye.
Chair Shields.
Aye. All right, that one passes on to council. Next item is TMP-3137, an ordinance approving agreement between the City of Lee Summit and the Missouri Department of Public Safety for the city's acceptance of appropriated funds in the amount of $1,500,000 for the planning, design, and construction of an emergency operations facility pursuant to House Bill 2020, Section 20.1.2.3.1, Fiscal Year 2025, and authorizing the mayor to execute any and all documents on behalf of the city for the same.
Good afternoon, Mike Snyder, Fire Chief. I think you just took a majority of my presentation because it simply is entering into an agreement so we can draw down funds that was appropriated in last session from our state. It is $1.5 million. It is a 50% match, which is funded already through the no tax increase bond issue. The process after this is entered into, we would simply submit the most recent contract that was approved. It was about $7.2 million. We will supply that to them. They'll provide us the funds, and then we'll provide them the invoices of payments up to a $3 million total to get our 50% match accounted for. So this is just that first step to do so.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the committee? None. I would look for a motion.
Chair. Yes. I would move TMP-3137 to the full council for approval.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Carlisle, second by Councilmember DeMora to move TMP-3137 to City Council for approval. And just a minor thing, but I think pursuit should be pursuant in that ordinance when it moves on. So can we get a vote, please?
Thank you, Chair. Councilmember Carlisle.
Aye.
Councilmember DeMauro.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Lopez.
Aye.
Chair
That's
Shields.
impressive
Aye.
that you picked up on that word.
I was reading. I was like, that doesn't feel right. Okay. Next item is TMP-3163, an ordinance approving the award of bid number 2025-024 to Carolina Ground Service Equipment, Inc., DBA Pilot John International, for the purchase of one new aircraft tug, EJP-12 Electric Towbarless tug for the Lee Summit Municipal Airport in the amount of $146,501.94, and authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement in the form of a purchase order for the same.
Hi, Thad Dearman, Assistant Airport Manager. So yes, this is a bid that procurement did pass, and we did receive 2 bids from 2 suppliers for the exact same tug. The situation we have right now is we're building Hangar 2, which, because of the design for it to house larger aircraft, we also need a tug that can also move the heavier aircraft that we plan to put in there. So currently we have a tug that can move 85,000 pounds, which is quite a good amount, but with the aircraft that are coming in, and which also the Hangar 2 is we plan to house, they can exceed that. So the requirements for this tug was 120,000 pounds. The tug that we received in the bid can do 125,000. So.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions from the committee? Was this item, I feel like we've discussed this before, was this an expansion request in the budget, last budget?
This was planned in the NTIB,
Okay.
This was just in the budget.
No tax increase?
Yes.
Okay.
That's how it's being funded.
Okay. If there's no further questions, I would look for a motion.
Chair. I move to recommend for approval to the full City Council TMP-3163, an ordinance approving the award of bid number 2025-024 to Carolina Ground Service Equipment, Inc., DBA Pilot John International, for the purchase of one new aircraft tug, EJP-12 Electric Towbarless tug, for the Lee Summit Municipal Airport in the amount of $146,501.94, and authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement in the form of a purchase order for the same.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Lopez, second by Councilmember DeMora, to move TMP-3163 to City Council for approval. Can we get a vote, please?
Thank you, Chair. Councilmember Carlisle.
Aye.
Councilmember DeMauro.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Lopez.
Aye.
Chair Shields.
Aye. All right, last item on our business agenda is 2024-6592, the FY25 first quarter dashboard.
Good afternoon, Eric Stoyanov, Budget Manager. So as you mentioned, just here to present the first quarter budget report, give an update on where things stand with the general fund and public safety sales tax. So starting off, we're doing something a little new with this budget presentation. Obviously, the key revenue categories and the key expense categories are the ones we focus on. We wanted to give an outlook indicator, so introducing this as a quick summary, nice visual aid, but green arrow, positive, yellow, cautious, red, negative. As you'll see, no area that we're feeling negative or alarming at this moment. So general fund revenue outlook, taxes make up 80% of our revenues, so obviously the main focus is sales tax, franchise, motor vehicle. All of those are coming in line with budget so far. Franchise, we're seeing higher electric, motor vehicle. It's both the fuel and the sales tax that's really helped out. One area we're a little cautious on right now is just the other revenues. Nothing super alarming, but just down a little bit for fines and forfeitures and licenses and permits in particular. And this shows a little bit more detail on that. So this is the first quarter budget versus actual. Percent budget received is for the full fiscal year, so we should be around the 25% mark for all of these categories. You can see with the taxes, we're right around that 25% mark, slightly above in some areas. Fines and forfeitures and licenses permits, those are slightly below, but those are two categories, especially with the permits, that can change with one big project coming online. And then you'll see in the other category, that is one big, it's the GEMT revenue that we receive, always receive towards the end of the year. That accounts for about $1 million out of that 1.2 million, so that's why that number looks so low at the moment. And then intergovernmental looks a little bit low, but that is where most of our grants are placed, and it's just one of our more volatile, just depending on when we receive the money. So nothing to be concerned about, and as you can see, total revenue right on line for that first quarter mark. And this shows the first quarter year-over-year change. Again, total taxes up about 1% compared to this time last year, and we're up 5% overall. One area that does skew it a little bit is that investment earnings. I know we've been talking internally in the finance department about a way to maybe go to more of a cash basis presentation versus GAAP, because a big chunk of that investment earnings is mark to market, and since we've had interest rate fluctuations, it's causing that to be a little bit of an outlier. If you exclude investment earnings, total revenue is up about 1% compared to this time last year. So maybe an adjustment we make as we look to refine this quarterly presentation. On the expenditure side, personnel is obviously our biggest expense for the general fund. Right now, in line with budget, it's about 3% above first quarter of the prior year. And as a whole, for the general fund operating, in line with budget, 7% above the first quarter. And this shows of last year. And this shows first quarter budget versus actuals on the expense side. Again, we're looking at the full year budget, so these numbers should be around the 25% mark. See personnel is right there. A few of the outliers are towards the bottom, the capital outlay, interdepartment charges and transfers out. Capital outlay, that is the pump release for the fire department, and so that's just a payment that goes out right at the beginning of the year. Interdepartment charges, it's a mix of one-time transfers that happen at the beginning of the year, so that's things like the ERPs, so MERP, SLRP, BURP, and then it also is our ITS, CBS overhead amounts. Those are structured so they're monthly entries, so that's why that's not a full 100%. And then for the other transfers out, those are one-time transfers that happen all at the beginning of the year for expansion positions, PSERP, and then the special obligation debt for Green Street that was approved this year. And this shows that year-over-year change. Again, kind of the ones I mentioned that are big ones are the capital outlay. Last year we paid interest only for the pump release. This year's principal and interest, which is why that is a big jump for percentage-wise. Repairs and maintenance, just radio equipment, utilities have been a little higher, but again, everything is within budget. It's just the year-over-year looks a little bit higher. And so 7% total expenditure increase compared to this time last year. And I'll pause there before I jump into public safety sales tax just to see if we have any questions on the general fund side of things. Okay, so on public safety sales tax, primary revenue source there is sales tax and use tax, essentially seeing the same thing as the general fund. It's mirroring, so in line with budget estimate. Personnel is the largest percentage of expenditures there, and so that's looking good as well. And then overall in the total operating, things are looking in line with budget. So on the revenue side, sales tax and investment earnings, sales tax right at that 25% mark, so pretty much right in line with what we expect for budget. And then year over year, sales tax has been slightly down. We're kind of seeing it with the general fund. Sales tax has been like 1% to 2% down. Use tax has been 10% up. So it's kind of a trend we saw last year too. It's just the shifting of how people are purchasing items. But again, it's normally in the 1% to 2% range down, and it's been fluctuating. So nothing to be concerned about on our end. And then on the first quarter Budget to actual expense side, as I mentioned, 10 out of the 14 million in the PSST budget is in personnel. Right now, it's 18% budget spent. Construction, that is a little skewed right now. So that is for the live burn facility that was constructed for fire. It also includes, internally, we do category transfers if people are within budget, but they need to move it from, say, personnel to operating or operating to capital. So one of those has happened for construction for the purchase of a police utility vehicle and then additional money for a bomb truck. It's just that it's not reflected in the budget until the next budget amendment's loaded into the system. So just a little bit delay in the system, which is why it looks like 131% of the budget spent, but that'll be fixed with the next budget amendment. But overall, 15% of budget spent so far compared to, or in the first quarter. And then the year-over-year change. Personnel is the big jump. We've gone from 46 FTEs to 63 FTEs in PSST this fiscal year. So that's about a 37% increase in FTEs in the Public Safety Sales Tax Fund. So that's why we're seeing a higher jump compared to year over year. But again, the year over year increase is high, but everything's within budget. And total expenses have increased about 3% compared to this time last year. And I believe that wraps everything up. So any questions on the public safety sales tax? Key takeaways are pretty much everything's in line with the budget. I know it's only 3 months, so we continue to look, and normally most of our bigger adjustments, we take a closer look at the mid-year mark, see what trends are happening, and if we should switch anything in our approach. So,
do you have any questions from the committee? Appreciate the update. I appreciate the colored arrows. It is helpful to understand where we're at, and look forward to hearing the mid-year.
Thank you.
All right, we are on to Roundtable. Do we have any Roundtable from the committee? I will just say thank you to the committee members and staff. I feel like we've gotten an amazing amount done already this year with vetting all these different PSAs. So I'm really appreciative of everybody's work. And then I think staff is going to give us a little update about the fund balance process, but that'll be still something we're going to work on yet this year. So more excitement to come. I'm always shocked that this room is not packed with people.
All right, well, no detail yet, but last month we went through the list of all of the items that were proposed for the unallocated fund balance above, general fund balance above 35%. And of those items that council directed us to pursue, we're working on refining some of those actual numbers and getting that teed up so that we can bring that back in December. It's kind of the plan, so we'll have a little more detailed presentation of that and more discussion of that in December.
The committee expresses its shock that it's already November, not about your work, just generally. All right, if we don't have anything else, then we will adjourn this meeting at 4:43 p.m. Somebody should change the